Talk about young shakes. Chicago 2 represent. Just James. And this for my city.
Hey, I do it for my city. Dog, I don't plan on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gon' first round. For my city. Dog, I ain't never.
Hello, this is Lacy Rice Jr. of Rice Fame Group, welcoming you to Chat with HBCU Champions, Season 2, Episode 13, featuring head coach Sam Puryear from Howard University, whose men's golf team won the 2023 PGA Works Division One Minority National Championship. Congratulations, coach, and welcome to the show.
Well, appreciate it. You said it right the first time. It was 2022 and 2023.
Okay, all right. Uh, well, please tell us about yourself, including your coaching experience.
I don't know where to start. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I've been here at Howard now for director of golf head coach for 4 years, and prior to here, I coached at Stanford. Blessed enough to win a national championship out there. Coached at Michigan State. Blessed enough to win a Big Ten there. I was a director of golf at Queens University of Charlotte. 6 years, I won 4 titles there. So I've been blessed. Every stop I've been able to win, and it's been a nice run.
Okay. And you are the defending national champion for PGA Works Division One, and so that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, we worked hard. I mean, we were definitely better this year than we were last year, and next year we're actually going to be better next year than this year. So it's been good. We built it the right way, and it's neat to. I mean, it's kind of like I've been able to plant seeds in the yard and watch the grass grow. And these young people have grown really really well, and we don't have any weeds, and we put in the proper fertilizer and controlling all the different balances, and it's going really really well. And to me, the most important part is they're doing really really well in school. Our academics are off the charts. The women's GPA is above 3.7, which is great, and the guys' GPA is above 3.2. So it's been great. And the women are a year behind the men in from inception. So right, I mean they've done really really well. Their first year they came in and finished fifth in the conference. Second year they came in and finished third in the conference. This should be the year where they begin to take the leap because the guys did it. The first year the guys finished probably about fourth in the PGA Works, and then all of a sudden after that, then we've gone down back to back. So just takes time. We're building it. We built them differently. We built the women through more of your traditional means, which would be um, um, through the recruiting of high school players, essentially. Whereas on the guys' side, we built it through the portal, which has been a quicker and closer closure to the gap. So it's been nice.
Okay. And your golf program at Howard has a very unique beginning. So could you tell the audience? Uh, we know you shared this with us last year, but for those who did not get a chance to see last year's um, uh, chat with you, can you share with everyone how the golf program at Howard started?
Well, I tell you what, there was a young man named Otis Ferguson IV who, when Stephen Curry came to campus to premiere a production that they were doing with his company, um, Otis actually made he went up to Stephen and said, "Hey, you should consider helping support a golf program," which I thought was pretty, and when I think back on it now, it's pretty interesting that a young man would be willing to do that, and he did it. And they just created the conversation. And from that conversation, one thing led to another, constant conversation. And Stephen Curry kind of believed and did his research and believed that Howard would be a great fit. And it all worked out. So it was one of those opportunities where a young man spoke his piece. The place already had an inherent solid foundation, and being strong academically. I mean, you got to think about it. Howard academically, business school is top 25 in the country, top 89 academically, holistically. And then you put all those things together, and then you're thinking about the best basketball player on the planet who loves golf, and you put those three things together, and now you see the experiment has worked with Howard Golf.
And that is something we got to give our hats. We have to give applause and take our hats off to Steph Curry for being willing to invest in Howard and the golf program, and then for Howard to be able to hire a coach like yourself to come in to develop and run that particular program. So hats off to everyone all the way around. Could you tell us? You spoke a little bit about your team. That your team was it was stronger this year than it was last year.
Yep.
Can you tell us more about your team? Who were your key athletes, and what were some of their accomplishments?
So Gregory Odom Jr., Everett Whiten Jr., Marcus Smith Jr. Were our top three players in the fall and the spring. And then in January, we added a young man named Curtis Merritt. He transferred in. And then Joshua Sipling, who's been here now 3 years, he played from January to June. He had a really good spring. So you think about it, all three of those guys improved their stroke averages from the fall to the spring. And that's literally what you want running a golf program. You want everybody to get better as time goes on. And so in the spring, Everett Whiten Jr., I mean, he led us in the spring. I mean, he culminated with a win at the PGA Works, but he played average in the fall, and he just turned up the juice. We had an honest conversation at the end of the fall, and I said, hey, man, you're not putting your best into this. You're kind of going through the motions, not knowing what to expect. In his answer, he said, yeah, you're right, coach. And then he just he started working, and he put the time in. He was very diligent at what he did January on, and he's a hard man to beat in the spring.
Okay.
And think about it, you're looking at your top three guys, which for our level is pretty solid. Two guys that stroke averages of 71, and one guy has stroke average of 73. The other guy has stroke average of 75. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And last year, Mr. Odom was the leader last year, wasn't
he? Yeah, he led the charge last year, and so the roles were actually reversed. So in January of 22, Everett Whiten Jr. was the number one player in the APGA PGA Tour U Black College deal. He was number one. Greg was number three. This year, reverse. Greg was number one. EJ, we call Everett EJ. EJ was number three. So it's nice to know that you have multiple guys. And now Marcus, who's a little younger than those guys, Marcus is playing. He played phenomenal in spring. He's having a great summer playing golf now. I anticipate Marcus over the next 2 years replacing being that guy.
Okay. And looking at the results, the final results from that championship, didn't you have like 5 guys that were in the top echelon?
Yeah, at the end, we had 5 guys. We had 5 guys that played really, really well in conference. I mean, just to start in conference, we had 3 guys in the top 6, 2 more in the top 25, and then at the PGA Works, I think we had 4 guys in the top 12, I think, and I think 5 in the top 20. So it's hard to beat a team like that. But I'm just proud that every guy has improved. I'm always looking for subtle improvement. Every guy has improved in one form or fashion. So in that respect, I'm pretty excited about
it. Okay. And as I told you last year, I can watch golf. I can't play it. I would definitely need a great and terrific patient teacher
oh, yeah.
to teach me how to play, because because I have yet to hit the ball off a tee. I've taken many swings, but I haven't hit the ball yet. So they just kind of told me that I'm best on the sidelines watching.
Okay. But at least you enjoy it, though. That's the key.
Right, right. So um, knowing that and being someone, I wasn't a top athlete or anything, but I was still pretty athletic. Um, how I guess back in the old days when I was younger, we didn't consider guys like Jack Nicholson and a lot of those guys. I'm sorry, Jack Nicholas
Yep.
and those guys to be particularly athletic.
Yep.
But then again, it took me a long time to realize that those guys are walking courses. They're not riding in a cart.
That's right.
So, um, is there a specific type of regimen that you have to have or that you have to do in order to be on the level that your guys are on as far as the physicality?
Great question, actually. We work out a lot. I mean, they work out with us with a trainer, but they also have some of them, my better players, also have additional trainers. I mean, so they're doing cardio, they're doing golf specific targeted muscle improvement areas. I mean, they're putting a lot of time and effort into it. I mean, they're working really hard, men and women.
Okay. So, tell us about the competition at the PGA Works National Championships.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best HBCU programs in the country, and some of the teams are actually pretty good. I mean, if you look back through, if you look back through the season that a lot of them had, they had some great finishes in a lot of events, and that's why when we came through, it was just a perfect storm. They just caught the hurricane coming through. I mean, we just came in and we were blowing 100 miles an hour. But uh, some of those teams have had really good seasons. I mean, some good players on every team. Um, if you think about it, Chicago State's best player, I mean, within the last 3 weeks, just transferred to Indiana University. That tells you the boy could play. Um, and then even on the individual front, there are a lot of Power Five players that they had invited individually, from Louisville to Purdue to Cal to a lot of those type of schools. And then my guys beat all of those guys. So there are a lot of good players, and I just think it just proves that the depth in golf. There's so many good players out in the United States. PGA Works has done a pretty good job in trying to identify from some of the traditional schools, but at the same time, um, for us, it was just a great week and a perfect storm. Everything just culminated and came together at the right time.
Okay. And you mentioned the HBCUs, but on the minority side, that also includes the Native American schools as well as the Latino serving schools. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. And one aspect of it, I guess I never thought about it before this year. I always thought that PGA Works was just like one division, men and women. But then I noticed that another institution, another program, won Division Two.
Yeah.
And so, is that it? There's a Division One, which are the larger institutions, and then a Division Two, which are the smaller institutions from NCAA, NAIA, and the other smaller divisions.
Well, within the PGA Works, I mean, if they had played all the schools together, D1, D2, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. It'd been the same result. I mean, it really wouldn't have mattered at all. In the NCAA setup, although yeah, that's a Division One, Division Two. The Division One teams at the top are definitely better than Division Two teams, no question about it. The difference becomes depth. There are some incredible Division Two teams across the United States. I mean, people think D1 is the only way to go. I disagree. Great D2 teams out there, fantastic D2 teams out there. That being the case, though, the depth is the difference. So whereas a D2 team uh, will legitimately have two and a half to three solid players, maybe, but a solid two. The Power Five schools, they're liable to have, even though you can only travel five, they probably have 7 good players, like really good players. The best programs do. And so that means that you have 2 great players sitting on the bench at the Power Fives. At our level of mid-level D1, and whereas the D2s will have a solid 2 guys, uh, the mid-tier good D1 teams will probably have a legit 3 guys and hope to get better play out of the fourth and fifth spot. So it all breaks down into depth. Depth is the key.
Okay. So at the championships, I know there were 3 rounds,
Yes.
and so do they with you having a D1 and a D2, do they play at the same time but just play in different groupings?
Yeah, they're playing it. They alternate. The way the PGA works has done it. They rotated courses, so you utilize 2 courses, and so the D2 they're at a course on one day, the D1 folks at another course on another day. So you're swapping courses.
Oh, okay. Now where was the championship?
In Birmingham.
Oh, all
Yeah.
right. All right. And you said they had it on 2 different courses.
Yeah. So, but you play each course. So Shoal Creek and I think it's called Bent Creek. I don't know what it's called, but we played Shoal Creek twice, Bent Creek once, and the D2 people played Bent Creek twice, which was the easier of the two, and played Shoal Creek once.
Okay. Okay. And when you talk about difficulties, are you talking about things like bunkers
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
lakes and
yeah,
things like
yeah,
that?
yeah. Bent Creek, Bent Creek was almost wide open in some respects. You could blast it all over the place. Um, Shoal Creek was more tree lined. Just to show you a difference, like our best score on Bent Creek, we only played it once. We tied a Howard. We shot. What did we shoot? I think we shot. I think we shot 14 under one round. We played Shoal Creek. Our best score one round was 7 under. So it was gettable. I mean, it was definitely gettable.
Okay. All right. So, and I guess that's another aspect of golf. Uh, I, I guess the strategic part when you are talking about obstructions on the course.
Yeah.
Is there a certain way of aiming, or how do you navigate the course itself?
Yeah, that's a longer question that we can't do during this interview. I mean, it's golf specific, but yeah, I mean, you go through your course prep, you use your course guides, course books, you base it off some level of science, and you identifying slope and wind and some of the directional challenges, and they always taught you in school the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight shot. So you just try to figure out the best and most direct points to execute.
Okay. So, and one of my favorite movies about golf is, of course, Happy Gilmore.
Yep.
And so, I guess in a sense, because we didn't see any strategizing with Happy until I guess later on when Chubbs gave him that new club.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, he was just swinging and knocking it out the park in so
Mm-hmm.
many words. But what you were saying too, you do want the ball to go straight towards the pin.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So in a sense that was correct the way that they did that. It's just that of course, and I guess, it wouldn't have made sense for them to show a lot of him trying to strategize or anything else, but from that particular aspect that was accurate.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're playing the way the course is built a certain way for a reason.
Okay. Okay. Well, see, every time we talk, you know, we get more educated about the sport of golf.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, tell us about your conference and the competition in your conference.
Yeah, we're in the Northeast Conference. It's a pretty good conference. I mean, it's some really good teams. Uh, and for what we're doing, it was a good landing spot for us from the MEAC. So It's competitive, good players. Each of the team in the conference, they have some good players on the team. So for us, we realize what we have to do. So it works out. I mean, it's challenging. That's all you could ask for, just having a chance. We finished second this year. Proud of the guys that finished second. So at the same time, we know what we need to do next year to have an opportunity to try to win that conference next year.
Okay. All right. Well, was the PGA Works? Was that your only quote unquote postseason match?
Yeah, that was the only postseason opportunity we had this year.
Okay. So in the normal conference play, how do they decide who go to the national championship?
It's
Uh,
based the winner of the conference gets an AQ, an automatic exemption to NCAA,
mhm.
and then the other part, if you don't get an AQ, it's based off of your ranking and your wins. So you have to have you have 70% win 70 win percentage in order to also get selected. And then if you also have to be ranked inside the top 70 is what I'm saying. You have to have a positive win record and you have to be ranked top 70 or better inside the United States.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. And I'm assuming that NCAA has divisions 1, 2, and 3 when it
absolutely,
comes to that.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. And so in your normal matches, generally how many teams do you play? Is it mostly head to head or is it
No, you
group?
don't play. You don't play any head to head. You typically, I would say, no less than 10. In our max this year, where we played in an event, there were 28 teams.
Wow.
Yeah, so you go into tournaments, and there are a lot of teams there.
Okay. And how do they match you up?
But they just randomly put you in foursomes. I mean, but um, once they select the teams, it's just the luck of the draw of who you play with.
Okay. Now, on the as the rounds progress, do they maybe take you out? Like say that let's say that day one you were in a certain group,
Right?
but then you ended up um that first round in the top three.
Yep. They reshuffle.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you reshuffle.
Okay.
So if you finish in the top three over your first two rounds or whatever the rounds are, it's shuffled. And so at
Okay.
that point, you start playing with the winners of the event.
Okay. Okay. So that's very interesting. I guess that's the way that they try to keep everything very competitive
Oh,
throughout.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. And so with the guys that you have, is there a lot of competition within the team itself?
Oh yeah, it's brutal, and I think that's what has helped us get better because I think internally I mean, you take on any given day, I've seen six guys on our team beat the other guys. So although Greg and EJ and Marcus are your top three, I've seen three other guys on different days beat all them guys. So, I think, and that's important. I think it's good for those guys to have that level, that healthy level of competition to push each other and help each other prove. Iron sharpens iron. So I think that's pretty important.
Okay. Now, how many guys do you have on your team altogether?
I had 9 this year. Next year, I'm going to increase it to 12, which helps me create like a B team, a development team. So I'm preparing those guys for the following year. Some of those guys won't play at all this year. So
Okay.
they'll ride the bench to get better and then be ready in 2 years. Whereas I'm counting these other guys for this year.
Okay. Okay. Now, with you being a Division 1 program, and you mentioned kind of a mid program, do you play a lot against the Power 5 programs?
Yeah, we do. We play some. I don't know about a lot, but we play some. So this year alone, we were able to play Georgia Tech, Oklahoma, Stanford, Maryland, with the local teams here, Maryland, Georgetown, and those guys, and we beat those guys. We beat all those guys, but then VCU. Then I don't know if they may be Power Five. We beat all those guys. But then on the flip side, when we played the Stanfords and the Oklahomas and those kind of teams, they beat us. But it's nice. It's nice to be able to compete with those guys. So and I think too, it just shows you it's not much difference between your top 2 or 3 and their top 2 or 3.
Mhm.
The difference always comes in from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guy at each level.
Mhm. And so are those the type of matchups that your team really looks forward to
100%.
see how they
They
measure
want to.
up?
They want to smoke. They if they want to go out and play those guys, and if they get beat, they get beat. But they want to play the best because it makes them come back and work on their games that much better to improve and get ready for the next time. And then it also prepares them for summer golf. Summer golf, they're playing all the amateur events and they get a chance to see these kids. And so they're out there competing. And I think it just adds for a level of, because most times in order to get comfortable, you have to be uncomfortable. And so playing in those tournaments initially is uncomfortable, but it creates comfort. And then when you see those kids again, you realize they're just like you. They're just golfers. They're just people. They're human. We can compete with those guys.
Okay, all right. I definitely understand that. I remember a few years ago it was a D2 basketball team who played against a D1 powerhouse,
Hmm.
and they took their lumps, they took their lumps, but they had a pretty good showing.
Hmm.
They were actually close to that team in the first half of that game, unexpectedly.
Hmm.
And when someone at the post game press conference asked those guys if they were intimidated, the guy was like, "No, we weren't intimidated. We play against these guys in AAU."
Absolutely.
so so that brought that brought that back to my memory when you said that these guys they do have a familiarity with each other.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, okay. So now your guys, what would it take after their eligibility is over at Howard to get their pro card?
Well, first of all, you can just declare yourself a professional, number one.
Okay,
But then from there, you sign yourself up for professional events, and then you set yourself up towards the fall to go to Q school in September. So you can declare yourself a pro, enter yourself in some professional events, and then from there, you just go to Q school.
okay. Well, I guess I didn't know how much Happy Gilmore was actually accurate.
Yeah,
That's pretty
there were bits and pieces of that were pretty factual. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, just looking at it many times, I had no idea. I always thought that you had to go through the pro am, route in order to, and I don't know where I saw that, but I thought that you had to go the pro am route where you're an amateur and then you play to a certain level and then you get invited to the pro tour.
Yeah. Well, yeah, some of those guys get invited, but you still have to, based on how you stand, you still have to have the opportunity to declare yourself a professional and then
Mhm.
play in those events.
Okay, okay. So, have any of your guys play? Well, let me ask this first. So, the pro am um, golf matches or competitions, are your guys able to play in those?
Yeah, yeah, some. I mean, but I mean, you can't just play in a coin ferry event or PGA Tour event. You can't just do that.
Hmm.
Those come with exemptions and invitations, but uh, some of the other smaller events you can.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, this is a totally golf question in relations to recent developments in golf. Will any of that change since the PGA and Live have combined?
Well, I don't know. I don't have any answers for that. I mean, at the end of the day, if a kid that's white or black wants to play great golf, wants to play professional golf, get better, go win some events, and you have an opportunity to play wherever you want. Period.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, Coach, um, tell us more about your institution at Howard. We know you mentioned some of the academic accolades there, but especially for guys who want to play for you, well, men or women who want to play for you, what
Well,
are
I think,
you looking for?
well, I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, you need smart students. I mean, if good GPAs, great golf game, great attitude, good spirit. Um, you have to be willing to be a good student athlete. You got to be willing to go to class. You have to be willing to work hard on the golf course. I mean, if it's you can't have one without the other. So, which I actually like because less than 1% of these young people are going pro. So, you have to really have that plan A, B, sometimes C, in order to make it. And I just think academically you want students with 3.0 or better. Three actually in this case you want them with 3.5 or better if you can. You want them with, even though most places now are telling you you don't have to take the SAT. I would encourage you to want to come here, take the SAT, especially if you think about getting some academic money. You better take the SAT. So those things, and then your golf scores. If you're only playing in neighborhood events at your local country club with your dad's uncle and your dad's friend, I'm not going to recruit you. If you're playing in some regional and national junior events and some AM events, yeah, talk to me. We're trying to find the best young folk we can find that's willing to come in and make a difference.
Okay. And so you're pretty much recruiting against the Stanfords and the Vanderbilts and all those other schools.
Yeah, you're trying to get the best player you can get. Although I'm also initially trying to get the best brown and black kid too, but I'm also reaching out to the other students as well. I'll take any student that wants to come here and be a great student athlete. He or she they have a place on my team. I don't
Okay.
care what you look like. You got a place on my team.
Okay. So, without knowing everyone who's on your team, how much do you reach out internationally?
A lot. I mean, I've, I've been doing this so long. I still have relationships in countries around the world, and I talk to people in those places pretty regularly. So I'm always seeking and trying to find that extra talent that no one else is looking for. So I mean, I'm trying to if you're on the planet and can play, if I can find out about you, I would love to talk to you.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully this video will go out around around the planet, and someone will take that in
No
consideration.
doubt. No, that'd be fantastic. No doubt about it.
Okay. So, um, what kind of support do you receive for your programs from the department, the institution, and the fans themselves?
Well, we raise our money, so the crux of our money comes from fundraising dollars. Um, Steph Curry was generous and helped play. He gave us seed money. Then we raised the rest of the money. So none of our money at Howard comes from none of our operating dollars come from the university, which is great. It's all fundraised dollars. Then the school comes in and helps us with. They have been helping us with scholarships, and even that money is coming out of operating as well. I mean, out of the fundraising dollars as well. So and it's great. I mean, you just have to raise money, and you're always looking to. In most situations, people raise money and you can't really solidify and tell people where your money is going or whatever. In my case, if I ask you for some money to donate to a program, I can honestly tell you where your money is going. There is a place, whether it's scholarships, tournament travel, entry fees, course access, golf club memberships to the local courses so we can practice. We actually have a place where the money is going. So yeah, we're not just frivolously raising dollars. I can promise you that. Everything we've raised is going towards the greater good. And the school here at Howard is super supportive. They love golf from the top down, from the president to the AD to the. I tell you what, my biggest proponent is a guy here. He's actually the golf administrator, a guy named Paul Bowden. I love Paul. I mean, Paul is in an administrative position, But as far as I'm concerned, he's an extension of this team. He's not a coach, but he's an extension of this team. So having people in administration like Paul help really make this thing go round.
Okay. That's great. That's great because I would almost bet that most or that a lot of programs do not receive that type of support.
I would probably agree with that.
Okay. Okay. And now as far as and we're going to shift gears here for a second. How do you deal with the mental health aspect of of the sport for your athletes and your coaching staff?
I mean, I don't deal with it. I mean, if it's a coach, you got EAP. If it's for the players, we work with sports psychologists. So it becomes an individual thing. You each person knows they have the opportunity. We talk about it individually. I don't do it holistically because each kid needs something different. So it's an individual, and we target it individually. We might holistically come after it and talk about ways to think and how to navigate it. But when it comes down to putting in the actual clinical time, that's an individual thing.
Okay. Okay. Sticking on the aspect of mental health and using mental abilities. Um, Golf, I guess I would call golf a thinking man's game
Right.
because one, like you mentioned before, you have to strategize to navigate those courses and other things, and I would assume that you'd also have to think about how much torque to put on your body to hit certain shots and everything else versus the part of Happy Gilmore, which I would question that you just run out there towards the tee and just swing as hard as you can.
Yeah. I mean, that's just something facilitated for television. That's not. I mean, that's not real. I mean, again, golf is individual, so each person's swing is geared and dictated or dominated by their body.
Mm-hmm.
Some people's body can't get in certain positions to create. It becomes physics at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Certain parts of the swing create certain smash factors, which create certain spins and stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely not the same. So that's also individual. Swing speed, ball speed. Uh, some people, not as flexible in the hip and the spine. They can't do certain things. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how that works.
Okay. 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 So um, let's going back to golf and let's talk about your career as a collegiate and even beyond that. Tell us a bit more about yourself,
As far as what?
how you started in golf.
Yeah, my dad played golf. My dad uh, went to Winston-Salem State. Was an All American '65, and so when he's in college and conference, he won 4 conference titles in a row. So I grew up around golf. I mean, I played other sports too, but I grew up around golf, and for me, golf was just cool as a little boy because I go hang out with my dad. I always enjoyed that. We share the same name, so I really looked up to my dad in that respect, and he was an unbelievable player, unbelievable golf. So for me, it was something I saw. It was role modeling. And fortunately, I had a role model that was really really good as it related to golf, and then the academic piece was easy. I mean, he was a principal at that point of a high
Mm-hmm.
school. So I mean, my mom was an English teacher and then went on to become a professor. So at that
Mm-hmm.
point, I was blessed to have two great role models, two parents who were educated, but also a parent. And then my mom also, even though she wasn't playing any sports, she really understood sports.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it was an easy transition, easy segue to become a player, a competent player. And then my brother came along; he was a player. Didn't play golf, he played football in college as well. So we took to the mantle that you could mutually do sports and athletics at the collegiate level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you played at Tennessee State.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And tell us about about your time there.
That was neat. It we it's kind of like Howard actually. That's the first thing I told the team here when I took this job. Like
Mhm.
creating a position here was like Tennessee State because Tennessee State had never had a golf team. Howard had a golf team 50 years ago,
Mhm.
but they hadn't had a golf team so long. You don't even know they had a team. But Tennessee State had never had a team. So you come in and essentially nothing is together. I mean, you're playing on crappy golf courses. You're getting just crappy equipment. You don't have resources. Your coaches out begging and borrowing and figuring out how to get you dressed and clothed and fed and everything else. And yet, in my case at Tennessee State, the coach, Dr. Starks, she did it. I mean, she put it together. She created a great program from scratch. And so I just kind of I remembered, mirrored, mocked what we did because I can still see the steps that the natural progression that we experienced,
Mhm.
and then taking the Howard job. That's one thing I enjoyed about the Howard job. It was like recreating from scratch to Play-Doh. So I knew inherently the things that it was going to take to build this program from scratch, and so I just put those things in place.
Oh, okay. All right. So you were able to really relate to your athletes more so than most coaches.
Oh yeah, because I'd experienced it
Right. Okay.
100%.
Okay. And so do they often ask you do they often ask you about that, about certain things they might be going through and how you dealt with it?
Yeah, we've talked about it a million times. I mean, we
Okay.
because for them it's hard for them to fathom. I'll tell them things they're like, "Y'all did what?" It's like what we did in their mind. What we did uh, was so antiquated,
Hmm.
and so it's like, there's no idea that they're like, "There's no way y'all." I said, "Man, you have no idea. We made it work. We didn't complain. We made it work." So we talked, but we've talked about that. We've talked about that a lot within the team, a ton,
Hmm.
a lot of conversations about that.
Okay. Okay. Well, who are some of the biggest influences in your career?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, of course, my parents. I would say one guy that I love to death that I consider my mentor would be like Tyrone Willingham, Coach Willingham. I've learned a lot from him. Uh, but then a lot of people, for a lot of different reasons. There was a guy I really looked up to coming up, a guy named Tiki Burden, played in the NBA. He played in the NBA, really good college player at Utah, but he was my AU coach in basketball. And I think about some lessons learned dealing with him. A guy named Ernest Morris, who was my pro growing up. You learn lessons from different people. You take bits and pieces and you put it in that configuration, just like building a puzzle. So those folks had a huge influence in what I've been able to do and what I've done. So, I'm thankful for that. There's so many people though along the way that have been willing to give me the time to talk to and pick their brains. People like Ed Mitchell, and Mr. Mitchell. I love this guy. I mean, you think about Mitchell Golf, his equipment is in every golf course in America. And the time spent with him and understanding and realizing what some of the different things, and you're able to pick his brain. So I've been blessed.
Mhm.
I definitely couldn't have done this by myself. A lot of people have definitely played a part in this.
Okay. Well, Coach, as we get ready to wind down, and it's definitely been a pleasure speaking to you again, because
I
we
appreciate
always
it.
learn something new.
Oh, it's all good. I appreciate that.
Well, this is the point where we would like to give you the opportunity to give shout outs to anyone you want to recognize.
No, I'm just thankful. I mean, I don't want to shout anyone out. I'm just at this point, I'm just thankful for everybody that has been willing to take my call, hear me out, and be willing to listen to my simple asks. Simple as that. I mean, there have been a lot of people, even in the DMV, that have stepped up. From literally from like a Woodmont Country Club to these folks let us come out there and practice, and they didn't have to. You without places like Woodmont and some of the people that have volunteered their time to help us or speak to the kids or give us a tea time or whatever. I mean, yeah, I'm forever grateful for that. Definitely.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you, Coach, for participating in this chat. And we hope that you and your program continue to succeed, and we will definitely follow your developments.
I appreciate it. The last thing I'm going to say is, and I won't tell you today, tell the audience, keep watching in the fall. Something is going to drop on ESPN, and that's all I'll say.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for that heads up. And we do want to thank you, the viewers, for watching this episode of Chat with HBCU Champions. Please visit ricefamegroup.org for more information on replays and more HBCU information. Also, Google Rice Fame Group and catch our podcast and rebroadcast on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and other popular platforms. Thank you very much once again, and have a blessed week.
Yeah. Now I'm talking about young shakes. 502 represent. Just change. And this is for my city.
Hey, I do it for my city. Dog, I don't plan on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gone first round. For my city, dog, I ain't never been a jumpin'. If he thinking I'm a jump, watch him get his head lumped. For my city, dog, I don't plan on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gone first round. For my city, dog, I ain't never been a jumpin'. If he thinking I'm a chump, watch him get his head lumped. For my city, cause I feel like I love her so much, like I owe her so much for supplying her touch. I will always respect her, I will never neglect her. Bet you hear her naming like every one of my records. No, I'm not stunting, ain't no future in your frontin', right? Gotta get this money, watch me get it all night. Planet flying top flight, higher than space stations. That's why I gotta grind, cause I need it and I hate waiting.